We begin today with one of the most powerful and dramatic moments in all of Scripture, and it happens at a place with a difficult but catchy name, which you may have heard of, but probably don't know the shocking translation of what it actually means. Then we wander through Ollivanders, argue with the Sorting Hat, and even hear from a listener, all on the way to responding to his demand, if you believe this stuff, prove it. Welcome to the Sky Pilot podcast that explores questions of faith, spirituality, and religion. I'm Dan Matthews, and I don't have all the answers, but I do enjoy the questions. Welcome to the podcast where every question is an invitation into a spiritual quest, and you're invited along for the journey. I'm Dan, this is Quark, and welcome to Sky Pilot Faith Quest podcast, the video version. And if you would click on anything, like subscribe, bell notification, it would absolutely make my day.
Go ahead. Make my day.
No, not like that. I'd just be happy and thankful. All right, let's jump right into it. We're going to begin with a piece of scripture today. I'll read it first, and then I'll give you a little background about what's going on behind the scenes and kind of what happened before this. This is from Joshua 24. Now, therefore, revere the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your ancestors served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. If you're unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. This is an absolute fascinating and compelling passage from Scripture. It's important because of what's happening, this kind of transformational moment for the Israelites. And it's important because of what it says and what it does not say. So let's take a moment and catch up. If you'll recall, the Israelites were held in captivity by the Egyptians, and then through the work of Moses and, of course, God's instruction and guidance, they escaped and began their long 40-year journey into freedom and the Promised Land. There is a character in the Bible stories who emerges as initially a sidekick to Moses, but eventually becomes important. And that is, of course, Joshua. He's important enough that he accompanies Moses up the mountain when Moses receives the Ten Commandments. He was Moses' right-hand man until Joshua, was ultimately chosen as Moses' successor. And that was important because that meant that he would be the person who actually led the Israelites into the Promised Land after their long, arduous journey in the wilderness. Eventually, the time came. He was old, and the end of his days was nearing. He had completed his task of bringing the people into the land. And now, just for a moment of perspective, let's remember that the Israelites were people of history, ritual, and tradition. And let's just agree that a 40-year camping trip, a 40-year sojourn of wandering in the wilderness is going to cause the community to get a little lackadaisical about some of their own traditions and beliefs. We're told in the book of Joshua that many of the males born during their time in the wilderness, maybe all of the males born during that time, had not been circumcised. So before they entered the new holy and promised land, all the uncircumcised males, if they wanted to stay a part of the group, were circumcised. Now, that alone would have sent tremors enough through the males of the community. I mean, they had been wandering through the wilderness, as I said, for 40 years. So that means pretty much every single male under 40 had to submit to being circumcised. Oh, and in the process of God giving instructions for this, God says to be sure to use stone knives.
Would the appropriate thing to say at this time be, ouch?
Absolutely. When instructions were given, the Israelites were told to circumcise the men, and these are the words, a second time. And this must have sent a shockwave through the older, over 40 crowd. But in this case, the words used can mean a second time, but also can imply a reinstituting of a tradition that had fallen by the wayside. So let's just imagine that there certainly were some anxious old men in the community until the wording got sorted out, don't you think? Okay, so all of this happened at Gibeath Haaraloth. And in case you think this wasn't a huge and memorable moment for the people, the children of Israel, the name of this place, Gibeath Haaraloth, was not the name the place already had when they arrived. This is the name that they gave to this place. The name they gave it, well, has a very specific meaning, and it means Hill of Foreskins.
Oh, my.
I tell you all of this because I need you to know how important it was, how momentous it was when Joshua decided to address the people he'd been leading, that when he did address them, that they genuinely had skin in the game, as the saying goes.
I think you meant to use the word literally in that case.
I decided not to use it because I wanted to err on the side of subtlety.
Okay, if subtlety was your target, then consider your effort an absolute total miss.
Fair enough. So Joshua, towards the end of his days, calls together the leaders and reminds them of their journey, of their tendency at times to wander astray, of their hardship, of how far they've come, all they've sacrificed, and all that God has done for them along the way, and of course, reminds them where they are now. And then he gave them a powerful charge. So let's go back to the passage because it has more power after we know kind of the context in which it is happening. Joshua 24. Now therefore revere the Lord and serve him in sincerity and faithfulness. Put away the gods that your ancestors served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. Now, if you're unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your ancestors served in the region beyond the river or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. There's an important word that happens in this passage, that occurs in this passage. The word is choose. He says to each of them, you must choose whom you will serve. You can serve the God we followed or the gods we've strayed to upon occasion, or you can choose to serve the God of the people in the land that you will be living. Then Joshua says, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's interesting because Joshua does not say to the people of Israel, I will now prove to you that our God is the only God. Nor does he say, I will now prove to you all the things that God has done for us. Nope, doesn't say, I will now prove to you why God chose us to live in this land. Interestingly, no, there is no proof, nor even an attempt at any proof. When Joshua calls them together, he offers no proof at all. He says only, now is the time you must choose. His emphasis is upon the word choose, not prove. Now, I say this because we live in a time, an era in which we place a lot of emphasis on proving and less on the obligation of choice. Now, allow me to explain that. It is as if we believe that a truly compelling idea will prove itself to you, and you won't have to make a choice because the proof of an idea will be so powerful, so compelling, that no choice is necessary. It's strange because I can make an argument that every single important moment in life pivots around a moment of choice, not proof. It's kind of like the idea behind true love in our culture, right? We love that as well. Find the right person, that magical person who is your one true love. And there won't be any work at all for you because the magic of perfect true love will have revealed itself to you, will have proven itself to you. We love that idea. I feel like you can't mention true love without that clip from Princess Bride. Let love find you, and you won't ever have to make an effort in your relationship. That's what we kind of like to believe, and it's utter hogwash, of course. A successful relationship is far more about the choices each of you make in your relationship than it is about finding just the right perfect match. Or it's a little bit like the idea behind choosing of a wand in Harry Potter. Remember Ollivander telling Harry Potter, the wizard doesn't choose the wand chooses the wizard.
The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter.
But if you read all of the books, watch all the movies, Harry's wand, the particular wand he's using during most of that, was of minuscule importance compared to the choices he makes along the way. The truth is, the whole Harry Potter series is really a book about choices. And you know what is perhaps one of the most powerful moments in the book of Harry Potter? It happens in the first book, well, in the first movie as well, during the Sorting Hat ceremony in the Great Hall. Why is it so important? Because Harry realizes that this is an important inflection point in his life, an important moment, and he wants to choose which house he is assigned to.
Harry Potter?
Difficult, very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh yes, and a thirst to prove yourself. But where to put you?
Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin.
Not Slytherin, eh? Are you sure? You could be great, you know. It's all here in your head. And Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness. There's no doubt about that. No? Well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor!
Look, the point here is life is not about destiny, fate, or even proof. The most important things and events in life are about choice. And that is exactly the point that Joshua is making. Now's the time to make the choice of whom you will follow. I posted a podcast recently, and it was an episode in which I talked about Neil deGrasse Tyson and his beliefs about a number of things. I received an email from a listener who said something like this: the problem with Christians is that they can't prove the truth of their beliefs. Let them prove that Christianity is true, or even prove that there is a God, and then I and many others will believe. Now, this is not the first time I've heard something like this, and it's fascinating to me. Why? Well, if you don't find my beliefs compelling, then why do I need to prove to you what I believe? I've had something like this said to me a couple of times, and not once in any of those has ever the person offered to prove their belief system to me before asking me to prove mine. Their belief system evidently is a given. Mine, though, has to be proven to be validated. Look, if you listened to or watched the Neil deGrasse Tyson episode, he says some pretty disparaging things about philosophy. Well, he describes it as, and this is his word, useless. I'd say that's disparaging, and also says how the study of philosophy can really mess you up. But want to know why? Part of what philosophy does is to really make you question the root assumptions of belief systems, which will lead you to acknowledge that some assumptions, unprovable assumptions, are going to be made in absolutely every belief system.
Even science.
Yeah, even science. At some point, no system can be absolutely proven. Every single system of knowing, belief, evaluation, ethics, philosophy, or faith is going to require accepting some things without the ability to prove them. So to answer the question, can anything be proven? No, not really. I mean, yeah, within a given system and basic assumptions being granted, it can then. It's like, well, remember doing proofs in geometry? You know what started every single proof that you had to do? We were given an assignment by the teacher and we had to prove something was true in geometry. But we always began with some givens that we could assume to be true before we even started. So can anything be proven in a way that is absolutely unquestionable by anyone else encountering the proof? No. But as you age, and I've discovered this now that I have, as you age, you discover that that isn't really a very important question.
Wait, isn't important? So science and math aren't important? Is that what you seem to be saying?
So let me start by saying that my undergraduate degree is in science with a minor focus on mathematics. So I love science, love math. I'm particularly interested in the physics of time. But I am not here to make a point that science isn't true because, well, I don't believe that. But I do believe there are things more important than science and math. These are the things that cause people to decide what they value and then, most importantly, how they treat each other. Your faith, your ethics, the core of your morality, none of those are grounded in anything that you can prove, but they are among the most important things in life, and they come from choice. Every day that you awaken, you will go through life with an opportunity to choose again. Interestingly, Joshua says, choose you this day. And I find that interesting. You can read this in two ways. One is that today is the day of decision, and once decided, you will forever be done. But another way to read it is that today is one of many days that this decision will need to be made. To me, it kind of feels like a daily decision is being offered and not a one and done kind of thing. That's all for today. Just remember, you don't owe anyone any sort of proof of your belief system. And to be fair, remember, nor do they owe one to you. And never forget, every morning begins a day in which you will follow something that day. So be aware and choose wisely. Remember to like and subscribe and ring that bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Let me know if you agree, disagree, or have an idea for a future episode. And on your spiritual journey, may you ask questions, seek answers, and boldly go wherever the quest takes you. Thanks for joining us here today and being part of the SkyPilot Faith Quest community. This is a great place to ask questions you wouldn't feel comfortable or safe asking in other places. And remember, the sign of a strong faith, solid religion, or healthy spiritual journey is not certainty, but that you keep asking questions.